Hello, everyone. My name is Preston Dennett, and welcome to a new episode of UFOs and the Paranormal. I call this episode Two Schoolyard UFO Encounters. I've been studying schoolyard UFO encounters for some time. I've documented more than 100 cases, and I find these types of cases particularly fascinating. They are absolutely different from your average encounter, which is usually an anomalous light seen late at night, darting by pretty high overhead and moving off. These cases are significantly different in a number of ways. Typically, schoolyard UFO encounters occur during the day. These are daylight encounters. Secondly, these sightings are very low level, a few hundred feet. And in fact, in 1/3 of the cases, they are landings in which often humanoids are seen. Thirdly, these are long-lasting sightings. Also, what makes them different from your average sighting is they are widely viewed. Large crowds of people, and often teachers as well, see these objects. What I find also fascinating is that of the 100 schoolyard UFO encounters I've documented, over half involve elementary schools. So the reason I wanted to do this episode today, because I have covered schoolyard UFO encounters in previous episodes, is that in these two cases, I have recordings from the witnesses' fathers. The witnesses in both these cases were very young, elementary age girls, very young witnesses. And in each of these cases, their fathers reported their case firsthand. And so what I'd like to do is actually play the recordings of these interviews, which I think is far more interesting than just me talking about them, but hearing directly from the witnesses' fathers themselves. The first case took place on May 2nd, 1977, over the city of Downey, California. I don't know the exact school where this took place, but it was in Downey, a fairly densely populated area. This occurred at around 11 a.m. and was witnessed by a large group of elementary age school children. It's a fascinating case, and I'll just let the father of the witness talk about it in his own words. So let's take a listen.
Yeah, have you received any reports Monday on a UFO sighting in the Downey area or Whittier area or Lakewood area?
No, sir. Did you see something?
Well, my little girl and her classmates saw it, and then I found, well, this is Monday when they saw it. They were playing at school, and then I heard from other people who also, my mother-in-law who teaches, different people in her class were talking about it, but my little girl and her classmates got it came right down over their school, and they were able to make drawings of it. And this was Monday around, I would guess around 11 o'clock, 11:30, and we're in a apartment complex practically right behind the school. And on Monday at, I say between 11 and 11:30, a vibration kind of started in the apartment in which we're living. I don't know if it was felt throughout the rest of the units, but anyway, the apartment in which we're living started to vibrate, and I didn't connect the two until she told us of this. Well, she described it, and she told us that evening, Monday evening, about it. And then I happened to think of that vibration, which I couldn't account for, because when it started, it wasn't caused by anything I could relate it to.
Uh-huh.
And so anyway, I was curious because she wasn't the first one to see it. Some of her classmates saw it, and then our little girl saw it, and she's 7. She was able to make this drawing of it, and the stories, the stories all corroborate. So I called the school, and they to ask if there was if the children had been talking about it, and they said no, they not to their knowledge. but they did talk to the girls that saw it.
Okay, what kind of description did they give on
Well,
this thing?
the way he described it, it was that they were playing and in the schoolyard, and it's the elementary school, and the one classmate called the other children's attention to it, and she said it was like a big silver ball, and she said it was as bright as the sun. It seemed to be as bright as the sun, and it was coming, and it was over the school. And on that day, Monday, it was the visibility here was perfect. The sky was blue. There were no clouds, and it was a unusually clear condition. There was no smog. And she said that it was like a big silver ball, and then she said it was surrounded by rings of color. And she said it was like trying to come down to us. And she then said in the center of it there appeared another bright sun. She said a real bright sun in the center of it. And that got real bright. And at that point they became frightened. So I said, how large was it? She said it was about as large as a street. Well, she meant as large as a street is wide, I guess.
Right.
And we took her to the school, and on the school playground, like they have these areas more or less stenciled out on a paving for games and so forth. And there's a very large circle, and the circle must be at least 30 feet in diameter. And I said, now, was it as large as this circle? She said, oh yeah. She said, it was bigger than that. And she said it stayed there, and it was watching them. As she put it, she said it was watching them. So I said, well, what happened then? She said, well, the school bell rang, and we went in, and she said, I looked over my shoulder to look at it again. And she said, it will probably come back tomorrow. So we questioned the other girls, and the story is the same with them, and it's a dangerous thing. So my mother-in-law was at class the other day, and they were talking about something. I don't know exactly what they were talking about, more or less the same thing, a UFO sighting. And so I called the police department to see if there were any reports, but this was Monday night now, so she said you would have to call back earlier tomorrow. So, and they gave me your number. So the thing that puzzles me is that the kids were able to describe this thing. And oh yeah, they were. I said, well, now what were these rings coming out from it? She said, well, they were like the colors in the rainbow. And then she said no. She said they were colored, but they weren't like the rainbow, but there were two rings, and they came out from it. And I said, now, this bright sun that came out of the center of it, I said, was it there all the time? She said, no. She says, when it wasn't there before, there was just like a big gray area. So it's just an amazing thing. And then this vibration that we felt in the apartment complex had to happen at the same time, because I connected the two. And they were at recess around 11:30, between 11 and 11:30, and that's when this vibration started.
Uh-huh.
And it only lasted for, I would say the vibration only lasted for 10 or 15 seconds at the most. So I think it was just something that I'm surprised that others at the school didn't see it, but I haven't really gone over there. I was going to take the drawings that these little girls made and take them over and ask perhaps if someone, maybe an adult teacher or someone else might have seen it.
Okay, did they actually see this object leave?
Pardon me?
Did they see the object leave?
No, they all went into they all went back into the classroom.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and she said when she looked over her shoulder, it was still there.
Okay, did they give any estimate as how high that thing was?
Yeah. I was trying to have her give me an idea, and we were looking at some poles, some high poles, and it would be my guess. She pointed to a really high pole, and it would be my guess it was at least several hundred feet, maybe several hundred feet off the ground. But from the way she describes it, as large as she described it, like this circle, I was trying. Yeah. See, my wife was saying that after she drew the picture, we have a film can here. It's like a can they put film in. And I said, well, the funny part of it was when it did the drawings. I said, now you draw what it looked like. So she drew her classmates on the ground on a separate piece of paper, and the playground was the trees and swings. And she named each of her friends. And then she drew on another piece of paper the round object. And she drew it perfectly round, and around the perimeter she put these two rings that were coming out from it. And then right in the center she drew a smaller circle, which she colored yellow. So she was trying to, I was looking at her, she didn't know I was watching her, but she was puzzled because she put the piece of paper that had the object on it above the piece of paper that had she and her classmates playing. And she knew she wasn't quite getting it the way she wanted it. So my wife put the paper on which she drew the object at right angles, and she says, yes, she says, that's how it was. It was like right above us. So then we held up this film can, and we said, now, was it solid looking like this? Was it metallic looking? And she says, yes. She says, it was silver and metallic looking. And so the size of it, if it was larger than this circle, it had to be quite low, because this circle, as I said, is at least 30 feet in diameter. So she gave as good a description of something that you could certainly ever hope for.
Did they hear any sound?
No, I asked her, and she says no, there was no sound. And when she said, when we asked her if there was any sound, when she said there was no sound, that's when I remember the vibration.
Okay.
And so whatever that vibration was, it was really unsettling. The vibration, when it started, it was really unsettling because it was like a high intensity vibration. That is, the dishes and things were rattling. It was like a very high, however you might describe it. Things were just like humming.
Uh-huh. Okay. And how old was she?
She's 7.
7, okay.
Yeah. I asked her if the rest of her classmates saw it, and she said, well, she didn't know because they were looking up at it. But she wasn't the first one to see it. It was her friend, and then about 4 of her friends were all looking up at it, she said. And she said they were looking straight up at it. So she put her head back, and it had to be almost directly overhead.
Okay. Did they actually see this thing descending towards them, or was it stationary?
I don't know. I don't know when saw it. I would have to ask her that.
Did she mention how many were in that group of children?
I would say about 4 or 5.
4 or 5. Okay.
Yeah, she knows them by name because I guess they're all the same age.
Okay. Do you still have those drawings?
Oh yeah, we have the drawings, and they're really they're humorous because the way she does the way she drew the children, and then this object.
Uh-huh. Okay. Is there any possibility of getting those?
Oh sure.
Okay.
I'd be happy.
We can get a letter off to you about that. All right, sir. Well, we sure appreciate this report, and we're going to check into this right away and see if we can't come up with some information on it. And it's the object which she has described, or you've described to me, would fit the category of what we refer to as the Saturn-type object, a sphere surrounded by rotating bands or colored bands right down through the center. And it comes as a surprise that this took place in broad daylight like this, because this usually doesn't happen. But we're going to we'll check into it anyway and see if we can't come up with some more information, and if we get it, we'll get back to you and let you know.
Okay. Well, thank you now.
Thank you very much. Bye.
As you can see, it's a truly fascinating case with some very unusual elements. And that brings us to the second case, which is really remarkable because, as it turns out, this second case took place in Encinitas, California on May 6th, 1977. That's just 4 days after the first sighting and about 85 miles to the south. That's highly coincidental that these are so close in time and space. Another very interesting aspect about this sighting is we know the exact school. It's at Ocean Knoll Elementary School. Both these areas where these sightings have occurred are right along the Southern California coast, which is very active in terms of UFOs. So that might also be a factor here. But this second case is particularly compelling because it involves two sightings. Humanoids were seen, and apparently this craft landed and remained in place for about an hour. It's truly a fascinating case, which should be far more well known than it is. So let's just listen to the father of the witness in this second case at Ocean Knoll Elementary School in Encinitas, California.
Yes, sir. I'm calling for the UFO Reporting Center in Washington.
Oh, yes.
And we had an unnamed caller left a message at our office today regarding something that you were supposed to have seen several days ago.
Where are you calling from?
Seattle, Washington.
Oh, no, that was my son left you that.
I see.
No, I didn't see it myself. This happened about a block away from where I live. About 15 school children saw it, and the teacher.
Oh, I see.
And one of the school children was my daughter. That's how it came to mind. Boy, it was a wonderful sighting. Jeez. The thing hung there for 5 minutes, and all the kids just stared at it. Do you want me to tell you about it? Or?
Yes, sir. We'd like to hear all about it.
Well, there's a little canyon behind. You know where Encinitas is?
No, sir.
No.
Well, I do by the map.
About 30 miles north of San Diego.
Okay.
Right along the ocean. My children go to a school called Ocean Knoll, and there's a small canyon right behind the school. And at 8:30, they saw this thing go down in that canyon. Now, whether it ever landed there or just hovered down in there, I don't know. And they were trying to climb. There was a fence around the play yard, of course, and they couldn't get out of the play yard, but they were trying to climb the fence so they could look down in the canyon, but they couldn't see it. And then an hour later, at 9:30, this thing came up out of the canyon and just hovered right at eye level where they could look right in the windows and everything, see the people inside. Jesus. And it just hovered there for about 5 minutes. And finally it raised up and it came over and it circled the schoolyard. And with all the kids looking at it. And then they say it disappeared just by going right straight up in the air till it disappeared out of sight. Now, the strange thing about this whole thing, they run in and tell their teacher what they saw, and the teacher says, just forget it. Forget you saw anything. And I can't understand that mentality. It just baffles me. And the teacher that stood there and saw it with him told the kids to forget they saw anything.
Right. Well, we run into this.
You run into that all the time?
Yes.
It baffles me and enrages me at the same time that they would tell to see a UFO was one of the sights to see in this century. One of the great sights, if you're lucky enough to see one. And there my daughter saw one and told to forget about it.
Right. Now, how old was your daughter?
She's 10.
10, okay.
She's 10.
That's a good observing age.
Yeah, and there was a girl that had a pair of binoculars, just happened to have a pair, they were going to watch birds or something. And she watched this thing through binoculars. And we went over to the house to see her. And because the teacher, we didn't see her at the house, she wasn't there. But my wife saw her later that day in a store. And she said, tell us about the UFO. And she said, I didn't see anything, we didn't see anything. And the girl was probably the best that saw the thing best of all of them,
Uh-huh.
But turned off by the teacher's attitude. And another little boy that was all excited about it and everything, his reaction was the same thing. That wasn't nothing. But at the time, my daughter was telling me he was all excited and he knew what a UFO was and everything, but that they turned him off on it. Do you run into that all the time?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
sure. Now, do you remember the exact date on that?
Yeah, it was Friday a week ago in the morning. I'd have to get a calendar to tell you.
That would be a week ago last Friday?
This last Friday.
Okay, then that would probably be May 6th.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Now, the real story is to get these kids together and get them let them tell you what they saw. But it was, we did talk to some other kids that saw it. There was about 5 kids in one family, and they were all excited about it. And I tried to corroborate what everyone said, about it didn't make any noise and didn't make any noise. But one boy insisted it didn't make any noise, but my daughter says it did make a noise, like a slight roar, But they all agreed on the color, and they all agreed that it had windows in the side. They all agreed that you could look in and see people inside. I say people, and they said that the one boy said they looked like they had masks over their faces. And my little girl said they looked like their faces were all rough, like. Funny observation, Yeah. But they generally agreed where it was and what it did and how it disappeared. They all agreed on that, It circled over the schoolyard and just went right on straight up in the air, and they never saw it again. Now, this was a UFO. This is no helicopter or an airplane, because my little girl has seen thousands of them, She couldn't possibly have.
Okay, now what kind of description did she give of this vehicle?
Silver.
Silver?
And she said, Daddy, it looked just like a plate. It was flat on the bottom and round on the top. So, the traditional saucer thing,
Right.
And it had, and they made another observation there, that as it caught the light of the sun, certain parts of it would just flash brilliantly. Now, whether that was just they seem to think it was a reflection from the sun on some reflectors that were on the object itself,
Right.
But it flashed brilliantly, and it had lights on it. Yellow, blue lights on it that blinked.
And that object actually came up over the schoolyard?
Came up, yeah. But the best observation was when it came out of this little canyon behind. Now I went down in that canyon. I'm disabled right now, and I'm on crutches, and I couldn't really get around very good down there. And we covered about maybe 1/4 of the canyon the next 2 days, trying to see if we could see anything down there, But it's so bushy and hard to get around there. I really couldn't go over it right. It'd take able-bodied, 2 or 3 able-bodied men could go over that in an hour, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's just a small canyon, just a little thing.
Okay. Did your daughter make any drawings or sketches?
Yeah, she did make me a little drawing, yeah. I asked her to draw me, and we had her. I guess she still got it. I don't know. It was around here.
What was her first name?
Her first name is...
Okay. And how many witnesses or kids do you think there were?
I think there was at least 15 kids.
And the teacher?
And the teacher, I know her name. But I've forgotten it right now.
Okay.
Anyway. But I called the San Diego paper. They had no interest in it at all. I called Channel 8, which is the local TV, and they had no interest in it at all. I thought society, I was disappointed. I thought society was more sophisticated at this time on that sort of thing. But they're hung up on their old fears, I guess, like they always did, something you don't understand, forget it.
Right. Well, this is very interesting in as much as we had a somewhat similar incident happen near Downey on the 1st, Monday the 2nd of May.
Up in Downey, yeah.
Right.
That's in the heart of the city.
Yeah, right. The object came down right over the schoolyard, right in the middle of recess.
It did. Well, the same thing happened here, yeah. And how was that described?
Just as a very bright silver object. They couldn't make out any real structural parts on the object.
Uh-huh.
It was a brilliant light. And, of course, in this particular case, the students, they got quite panic-stricken and ran into the school. And by the time they looked back out again, the thing had gone. But
what day was that? Was that anywhere near the Friday that...
It was May 2nd, Monday, May 2nd.
So that was in the same week, wasn't it?
Right.
Geez, that's interesting. But they didn't have the same situation there where the teacher told the kids not to... Or maybe they were older
Not to my knowledge. I talked to one of the girls' fathers, and he had pretty well quizzed his daughter regarding the incident, and he was going to get in contact with other parents whose children were involved and see if they couldn't correlate all the information.
Were they older, or what grade were they?
Grade school.
Grade school, elementary, huh?
Right.
Yeah, this is elementary too, yeah. Up to 6th grade, I guess.
I think his daughter was about 7 1/2.
Oh.
Something like that.
And How many people saw it? How many children saw it?
I don't remember the group, but it was a pretty large group of kids.
Geez, only 5 days away, huh? They saw it on Monday, and then this thing was seen again on that same Friday. What in the world it would do? What would it be doing down in that canyon for an hour? Do you have any idea?
Well, of course, going down into canyons like that is quite common for these vehicles, but what is really important is the fact that the incident occurred during daylight hours, which is very rare.
Yeah. Oh, was the other one in the evening or something?
No, that was 11 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, be darned. Somehow, they must have had some business in there. They were collecting soil samples.
Oh, so they're ever doing something like that or getting out of the way of radar.
Or getting out of the way of radar, huh?
Right.
Oh, oh. And down there, my daughter remembers that it was exactly an hour because she saw it go down, and she remembered they come out for recess at 9:30 again.
Uh-huh.
And then when it come up out of the canyon, she happened to see it, and the kids all stood there with their mouth hanging open.
Okay, if we got a questionnaire off to you, could you kind of work with your daughter to fill that in?
Yeah, I'd like to.
Also, if we could get some investigators in there, would you kind of operate as the hub to get them started?
I would be glad to cooperate with anybody. It just infuriates me that they're going to just, ignore the whole thing.
Where did your son finally get our number?
I gave it to him.
Oh, I see.
I called the sheriff department and they gave me your number.
Great.
But since I don't have very much money right now, I didn't call because I found out I was out of town. I just couldn't afford it. So he has more money. He said, "Give me a number, I'll call it." So he did. That's how that happened. But if you want to send anybody around, I'd be glad to cooperate with them and show them where it is in the canyon. And,
was there any estimated distance between the witnesses and the object?
I estimate that I don't think it could have been over 100 foot. They were right on top of the thing, staring right into it. Yeah, the average flying, as you know, the average flying saucer or UFO sighting is we saw two objects fly at approximately 5,000 feet going northwest or something.
Right.
Well, they're valueless. This was a wonderful sighting. The ground level, and they're going to just ignore it. I can't believe it.
Well, we'll get somebody in there to dig that out.
I wish you would. I don't have the time, or I can't do it because I'm disabled. But I would cooperate. I'd love to cooperate with you.
Well, we sure appreciate that very much.
Okay.
And thank you again for talking to me.
Is this the hub where UFO information is sent in, or is that?
Well, it's a national center, but we're a private scientific organization working on this subject.
Oh, is that right?
Right.
Oh.
It's not in any way associated with the government.
Oh, so it's all by public,
it's a self-funded organization.
Self-funded organization.
Right.
Yeah. Good. All right, well, I'm glad to hear it. I'll send somebody around. We'll dig that story out. I'd like to do that.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
There you go. That's the second case. I think you'll agree it's truly fascinating to hear from the witnesses' fathers themselves. I love these cases because I think these are typical of schoolyard UFO encounters. I think the reason there are so many of these cases is that there's an agenda. The ETs are targeting schools on purpose, intentionally showing themselves to the youngest of our children. I do have cases involving junior high school students, high school students, even college. But as I mentioned earlier, over half involve elementary age students. And I think that's intentional. I think the ETs are showing themselves to children in an effort to sort of announce their presence, get us used to their presence. And the reason I think they're doing that is because one day we will have open official contact. I think we're moving towards that, and it could happen very soon. Anyway, these are fascinating cases. I covered them both and nearly 100 more in my book, Schoolyard UFO Encounters. This is a phenomena that has been occurring since at least 1950. I have one case earlier than that, but it's still going on today. I'm quite confident there will be more cases. I'm still hearing of new ones. And these are a really interesting type of encounter that really deserve to be well known. And that's why I wanted to do this video, this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. I want to thank you once again for watching. I really appreciate it. And until next time, keep asking questions, keep searching for answers, and most importantly, keep having fun.